Welcome back to the Sacred Mycelium podcast. I am Victoria Leestar, your host, and I am here today with Kayse Gehret. She is a pioneer in transformational wellness with nearly 30 years of experience guiding others through deep, soulful change. She is the founder of Microdosing for Healing, a global platform empowering individuals with natural medicine, intention, and guidance. She's supported over 1,400 people across 30 plus countries through intentional earth-based practices. Kayse is known for her down-to-earth yet spiritually rich approach. Kayse also leads a professional training program equipping the next generation of facilitators to bring conscious earth-based support into modern wellness. Welcome, Kayse. I am so grateful that you are here. Thank you for joining me today.
Always. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. All right. So, Kayse, before we dive in, I'd love to set the stage for my listeners here. There are a lot of people talking about microdosing these days, and we're specifically talking about microdosing plant medicine. And I believe I just looked up the stat, like there's millions of people that are microdosing these days. And there are podcasts about protocols, there are podcasts about the research studies and latest findings. And there's also influencers talking about their 20th plant medicine experience. And I don't want to go into the conversation of that because there's plenty of that out here. What I want to have this conversation with you, since you have supported so many people in this space, is to have the conversation about these lived experiences, these people that come to you that are seeking change, that are seeking support, but they don't know where to go. Maybe they're curious, they're also cautious, but they want someone who has been in this space. So with Microdosing for Healing being around for 6+ years and the support that you have had with professionals, with moms, with people that are in later stages of life, that's where I'd really love to go, because you've heard the fears, you've heard the hopes, you've heard the questions, and I know that there is a desire for more of a space of podcasts in this avenue. So we're not talking about legislation, we're not talking about these mystical experiences. We're talking to the mamas, the single parents that are doing the best that they can with their 4 kids. We're talking about the parents that are trying to support their teenage kid with anxiety, depression. So that's where I really love to go in this conversation. And I think you are the perfect person, the perfect facilitator and guide to have these conversations. So before we get started, to give a framework, to give a foundation for those of you who may not know your story, can you take us back to the beginning? What was happening in your life before plant medicine called you into its space, into your journey?
Thank you again, and thank you for the work you're doing and the space that you're speaking into. It's really, really potent. So thank you for having me. Yeah, I share with people I'm probably the world's least likeliest mushroom guide. Right? And that mirrors a lot of my clients too. A lot of my clients, they find their way to this work and this practice. And so as a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. I always was drawn to support people and health and wellness, and I was on a very traditional, conditioned path until I got called to move to California. I listened to that message, and shortly thereafter, I met my Reiki master. I started studying body work at Esalen, and I went down this path of energetics and somatics that kind of really set myself up for the work that I do today. And I also had a grand mal seizure simultaneous, so I started having it really started when I was a child. I would have really, really bad headaches. And then by the time I was a teenager, I was having grand mal seizures, and they really intensified into my 20s. So I was medicated. I was diagnosed with epilepsy, even though I didn't have epilepsy, to somewhat control the seizures. And so I was always wary of not working with drugs, especially psychedelic drugs that might destabilize my mind. So it was only after many, many years of healing arts practice and being in the field, I met someone who introduced me to the concept of microdosing. And I was like, that I could get behind because I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't leaving the earth plane. I wasn't going to greatly destabilize my mind in that experience. And shortly thereafter, my seizures stopped. I have never had a seizure since. And quickly, within weeks and months, I developed all of these other gifts, physical, mental, physical, emotional, very rapidly, I think in part because I had laid a foundation with all the other practices, with the energetics, with the body work, with the Reiki, all wove together. And then plant medicine was kind of the icing on the cake, if you will. And I can't at this point really imagine my life. My life on every facet, on every level has been completely transformed by this work.
Wow, incredible. I know several people that are in my community that have experienced migraines, grand mal seizures, and this is a symptom that as humans that we experience. And it sounds like, knowing a little bit more about your story, like there was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of stress that you were experiencing in those times. And having the plant medicine psilocybin support you in this journey, these earth medicines, and also connecting to spirit and being an Esalen and the magic of nature, like that is such a bigger component to, I want to say, to maybe potentially your symptom relief. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. They absolutely all weave together and amplify each other, for sure.
Mm-hmm. When you first started your microdosing journey, like what were you hoping for when you first started?
That was kind of the beauty of it. And looking back, I now invite that openness to my clients today. The beauty of, like, even 6 years ago, 15 years ago, no one knew what to expect. There wasn't really an expectation. And so it was just a curiosity of, like, I wonder what the medicine is going to teach me, show me, where will this lead? So I guess if I had to assign an intention, I thought it would deepen my meditation, enhance my creativity. I really wasn't sure. I certainly wasn't expecting the results that I did have. So the medicine is so beautiful and how it works so uniquely with each person's soul and communicates so uniquely that I think now people come in expecting what their sister got, right? Or what their colleague or what they read on Reddit. Well, Reddit said I was going to get this and I'm having this experience. It's so uniquely designed, uniquely for our soul. So I invite that kind of openness and curiosity when you're just starting out.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. Because like it's this network, mycelium is this network that's underlying in the earth, and it's so supported by the earth and the earth's medicine, hence the word earth medicines, that like we're stepping outside of the confines and the constrictions of Western medicine and what we're supposed to be like in this world. It's really, really beautiful that you stepped into this space of this openness and allowing the medicine to give you exactly what you needed. So how did your own journey, Kayse, ultimately lead you into supporting others with sacred plant medicine?
Beautiful. I think the people closest to me at the time, I shared it with them, the people I saw day to day. I had my healing art studios at the time, so my staff and team are there, saw me. So they were among the first to start microdosing beside me, my original clients, if you will. And then just neighbors too in my neighborhood. So it just grew quietly and I was supporting people one-to-one, but it really wasn't until COVID happened and my studios were shut down in March of 2020. And by May, I wanted something to bring my community together to provide support and healing, connection, get people through this really uncomfortable time of lockdown. And so that's when I put my pilot group programs together. Just, I thought, to kind of tide us over until we could be together again in person. And right from the start, the initial group programs were magic. And I have such a deep love now. Fast forward, I've just finished our 33rd cohort of our group program. So that's really, it came to life very just out of innovation in a difficult time, but very much spirit directed.
Organically, like the mushrooms gave you exactly what you need and gave your community exactly what you needed. And it just like wove in that support network, because honestly, you've supported thousands of people all over the world now. Like in this time, 6 years, you've sat with thousands of different conversations. I know you do very extensive intake call, like that's how I stepped into your space. And you've heard people's fears and their hopes and their desires, and they're curious. There's an unknown because people don't want the stats. They don't want the research. I mean, maybe they do, but also they want that lived experience. And someone reaches out to you today, like, what are you seeing that they're seeking most right now?
beautiful question. And you're spot on in that people rarely bring those up. They're aware of the research and the legislation and the stats, but really what they bring to the call is, here's my deal. It's a safe place to share who they are, what's going on in their life. And they're like, have you seen this before? Is this something that you have seen, and can medicine support this work? That's exactly how it goes. And so it's really, as a guide, I've learned so much just in pattern recognition and letting the medicine and spirit show me how to guide. Right? And we can't learn it any other way. It's not something you can necessarily learn from a book. It really takes just sitting, listening over and over and over again for the medicine and spirit to kind of show how this medicine can work.
Yeah, I love that, because as a person in human design, being a reflector, I live by lived experience. I don't learn by books. I live by doing the thing and experiencing it. And I love that you brought that into the space, that the medicine guides us all into that too. So what would you say over these 6 years and these thousands of people that you have supported on these intake calls, and what would you say are some of the most common reasons that they're coming to you for this supportive network?
Great question. So it's been fun to watch the intake, what people are bringing, evolve over time. It really speaks to us evolving as humans as we evolve in this work. And so I know when I just started out back in 2020 publicly doing the group programs, people were bringing a lot of depression, anxiety, mental health, looking still like very much modeled in the I have a problem that I'm looking to manage and solve. And over time, fast forward 6 years later, I'm finding that people aren't just looking to manage a problem or symptom. The expectation is much higher. And so they're looking to thrive in their life. They're looking for greater vitality, more connected relationships, more joy in their life, more happiness, more connection, more purpose, more community. And it's been a beautiful evolution as we kind of move away from the pharmaceutical model of Western medicine toward a how good can this really get model.
Yeah, and what I hear you say is like people are coming to you with this label potentially of what they've been told that they have, and now with the medicine, like we're seeing, as a guide myself, we're seeing that there's this deeper root to what actually the depression is from. And so it's beautiful that the medicine is able to support that deeper underlying layer to release that depression, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all energy. Underneath everything, it's energy and spirit. And so that's the beauty of the medicine. It goes straight to that root. So a lot of our Western medicine has existed on the surface level. We're just managing symptoms, moving things around. We're disparate parts, disconnected, and earth medicines and mushrooms especially go right to the soul of the thing.
I love that you said that too. And so when someone has come to you with depression and you are supporting them with plant medicine, with psilocybin specifically, like do you find that their healing often unfolds differently than what they expected?
Oh, more often than not. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I really want listeners to understand is that you may come to this practice, you may come to a guide and want XYZ, and what really is unfolding is something vastly different. The medicine gives you exactly what you need as a human living on this earth in this time. Like we're so told that this medicine will cure XYZ, when in reality, the earth medicine allows us to go even deeper than that and allows us to see things differently. So for those of you that are curious about plant medicine, about psilocybin, know that these expectations are simply your thinking mind trying to expect an outcome, and be open to the curiosity of what it can give you, right?
It's always listening to us. It hears us. It hears us. I oftentimes will go, just wait for it. Just wait for it. It's listening, but we're so used to treating the symptom of the thing. I'll give a perfect example. I had a client recently in one of my groups who her intention was spiritual development. She really wanted to connect with her angels and guides, and she's like, they're right there. I know it, and that's my goal, is to connect with them more deeply. She started microdosing and immediately was having these big emotions of grief grief surface, of catharsis, of shedding tears, of being tender and vulnerable and having some fears and anxiety come up for release and clearing them quite quickly. But she's like, this isn't what I signed on for. Is like, are the mushrooms listening to me? But when you look at it from nature's perspective, here's that intention, and nature goes straight to what is preventing you from having that spiritual connection. It's the density in the body, it's the heaviness in the body, it's these incoherent resonances that the mushrooms are going straight to work on those things. The emotions that you're experiencing are the symptoms of the release and healing that's happening. And once you get past that, then you're going to have the connection to the guide that you were hoping for.
Yeah. Wow. So beautifully said. And I love that you brought up the fact that grief, because I recently have had a client that has lost a spouse they were married for a very, very long time. And one of the things that he wanted was not necessarily to experience the grief, because that's really uncomfortable, right? And grief touches all of us in one way or another, whether it's a loss of a partner, a loss of an animal. Grief is so prevalent in this human experience. And I want to ask you, Kayse, in that example, because I know the example from my client, what do you see, what do you witness from these people who begin this journey that are carrying this grief? Like, let's talk about that depth. How does the plant medicine support that?
So beautifully. I pause because it's the most grateful for. I have a lot of things to be grateful for with this work, but that is one of them. So that was one of my primary intentions that I held as I started to deepen, had a lot of physical health benefit and release. The next thing I was curious to work with was I lost my father when I was 7. I was really close with him, and I think a lot of my trauma to my nervous system was around that loss as a child. And so I got very curious, and it was kind of a grief and a wound that never healed. I'd done all the things, I had done all the therapy, I went to the grief support, I did, I read all the books, I intellectually understood it, but I just couldn't get beyond a certain level. And I hear that from a lot of clients who are loss of spouse, loss of children. It's like, I can't get past a certain point. I feel stuck in my grief in a certain level, and this is how far I can get with this. Mushrooms, I think, are the only thing, and some other natural medicines, that go straight to your connection, your energetic connection with that spirit and soul, and clear and clarify that to come into a deeper conversation with a soul. Through mushrooms, I was able to connect with my father, like experience him, sense him again, even talk with him in journeys, and to find that connection. So it doesn't really remove your grief. Your grief stays with you, but it expands you around that grief. And so you orient yourself around grief. So before I did this work, I was focused on the loss of that, like the loss and around grief, versus through mushroom practice now, it orients me toward the preciousness of life and his spirit, like how his spirit is living through me in what I do in this lifetime.
Right. Wow. That's so beautiful, Kayse, too, because as humans, if and when we don't process the pain, the grief, the trauma, the anxiety, it stays within our body, right? Maybe that causes the chronic pain. Maybe that causes the migraines. We don't know specifically. But when you have the capacity to see grief from a different perspective, like you said, it's not going to go away. I lost my father in 2018 and the love of my life, and knowing that now he's this spirit that's always here, and I can speak to him and he'll talk to me, and he does crazy, wild, wackadoodle things in my physical life, but also it's being able to have that fun and that play, because honestly, I think I'm more close to him now than when he was alive.
Yes. Right? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's move on from grief. Let's move on to this chronic pain. We alluded to a little bit of how the body holds on to stuff, right? And if we don't process it, maybe potentially it creates this chronic pain in our body. How does microdosing support chronic pain, inflammation? What are people that have this chronic pain, what are they carrying and what are they hoping for?
I love this question. It's so layered and there's so much to it. And on a physical level, there's so much that earth medicines can support on our physical being, on a cellular level. We tend to focus on the psilocin, the molecule, the psychoactive molecule, but all of earth's medicines have this entourage effect of bringing so many other beautiful alkaloids into our physical body that's support our physical cellular health that we're only kind of just going to start to understand now going forward. And then on an emotional and energetic level too, I have seen, and it's so remarkable to witness this as a guide in practice, is wherever people have chronic pain in their body, it's always very intentional. Once you start to communicate with that pain, that part of the body, that system, you follow that thread through. And oftentimes people have the memory, as you said, that's absolutely correct, where the body holds the memory. The body is often protecting us in its way of orienting around a specific part of the body. And when people start to release that chronic pain, the memory also surfaces at the same time. And so it's remarkable, but I've had people, either in dreams or just daydreaming or on hikes, are like, I had this memory of me and I was 17 and I can see the terry cloth shorts I was wearing and I could see my sneakers. And I had this I was back in my body again, and I was daydreaming, and I realized it was a few days after that I found out my brother died. And it devastated me. And this was someone who was having a lot of chronic pain and health issues many years later as an adult. And that memory, as her pain lessened, her physical pain lessened and released, this memory of her brother's presence in her life was intertwined with that memory. And so that's how grief works and emotions work. It's kind of tangled up in our imprinting.
That's a really powerful story. I was going to ask you to share a story of a client or person that you have supported on this chronic pain, and you brought it in so beautifully because I see this mycelial network working together, and it's working together in the human body when we are microdosing. And to reflect back to the terry cloth shorts, and I also got the vision of the high top socks with those colors wrapped around the top, right around our calves, but also like to witness that maybe we did process that grief in our way that we could in that moment in time. And when we start microdosing, there's another layer that gets to get processed in that grief that transpires in that chronic pain. Now maybe as I'm hiking, my knees don't hurt anymore, but also we sit with that forgiveness of however that pain and that feeling was held within the body too. And that allows that energetic release also.
100%. Yes. I mean, in my own life, in hindsight, like I can see my seizures was my body's best effort at protecting me and clearing me. Like I knew in my heart I didn't have anything wrong with me, despite what all my doctors were telling me. I knew that I was fine. And now in hindsight, I can see that I'm just very open. I'm a human design mental projector. We're like reflector. We're just kind of like a sieve and collect a lot of the debris and incoherence of the world. And so it was my body's best effort to like reboot my operating system. Yeah. And after I would have a seizure, I would have this calm and this clarity and this coherence. It was like a diamond in the days following. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense from the perspective of spirit, what was going on. So absolutely.
What if you gave yourself 3 days to simply remember what it feels to be fully alive? This October 8th through the 11th, 2026, I'm honored to be facilitating a 3-day plant medicine retreat with Divinay Retreats in the beautiful pine forests of Prescott, Arizona. So this retreat is an invitation to slow down, to reconnect with your own inner wisdom, and to explore something that's possible when you're held in a safe, intentional, and deeply supported space. Together, we'll prepare for a guided plant medicine journey and move through the experience with like really some compassionate guidance and dedicate time to reflection and integration, because what unfolds during this journey is only the beginning. The real magic is how it becomes part of your everyday life. So maybe you can imagine waking up surrounded by some towering pine trees. We're sharing nourishing meals. We're connecting in conversations. We're having moments where we remember what that wisdom that has been within us has always been there. So this retreat experience includes beautiful lodging, meals, preparation, education, a guided plant medicine journey, integration support, and 1-year membership to Divine Earth Church. So if this invitation resonates with you, I'd love to welcome you into this space October 8th through the 11th, 2026. Early bird pricing is available through August 15th. You'll find the links in the show notes. So this is an invitation into greater presence, greater vitality, and a deeper relationship with yourself. Let's go back to grand mal seizures and let's transition into migraines. I was on Reddit before our call, and there's a lot of questions that people are asking. Can microdosing psilocybin support migraines? And since you have been in the space for so long, what are people asking? What are people coming to you about? And how do you answer these questions about this migraines and microdosing?
Yes, absolutely. It can. Yeah, unequivocally. From the start, I've seen remarkable healing across any kind of nervous system condition. So I usually invite people to, whatever your diagnosis or your condition coming in, kind of set that aside, because whatever you're experiencing, it's just your body trying to compensate for you. So with some people, it might be a migraine. Some people, it might be PMDD. Some people, it might be cluster headaches. It'll be different for each of us. But the root cause is nervous system healing. So if we kind of less look at the condition and the symptom and look more to the energetics at heart, yes. But yeah, migraines, cluster headaches, tension headaches, stress-related headaches, hormonal-related headaches. Yeah, all of the above.
It comes back to that anxiety. It comes back to that nervous system regulation. It comes back to what is, again, like I want to really emphasize this, is that our bodies are so incredibly wise and they protect us and it keeps us safe, and it's always trying to come back into balance. And over a lifetime, like these symptoms come up for a reason, and it's an invitation to invite you into sitting with those emotions or those feelings, and the plant medicine supports you in sitting with those feelings that are really probably uncomfortable, but invites you into healing it. So the curiosity, what's here? How can the plant medicine support me, and how can I move through this so that on the other side there gets to be this beautiful next phase of your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of next phase of life, let's go into menopause. As a woman in menopause, passing that perimenopause, passing into this next chapter of life, like what are you hearing in your space and these intake calls of women asking, how can microdosing support me during perimenopause and menopause? And what are you telling them when they first reach out to you?
This is immensely up right now. So I'm very happy you're bringing it in, because I feel like it's not a coincidence that hormone replacement therapy has been suppressed and repressed and held back from women, as are psychedelic and natural earth medicine healing too. And both are coming back, roaring back into the public consciousness right now. And that's not accidental. So yeah, I think our generation it's such a privilege to be part of this generation that women older than us did not have. So starting with that, and so sharing with other women, I think similarly is right now we're at this place in healing where sharing our stories and sharing, going on podcasts, sharing case studies, sharing the stories of our neighbors and loved ones is the most powerful way we can learn, whether it's about hormones or it's about earth medicines, and supporting each other through that. So yes, a lot of women, the first question is like, here are my symptoms. Here are my physical, mental, emotional, crazy symptoms I'm having. What's going on? And can mushroom psilocybin help? Sometimes it's yes, often it's yes, and sometimes it's hormonal. And so I think as guides, it's really, really helpful for us to have these collaborations with other professionals in these fields. So I spend a lot of my off time when I'm not in the mushroom space learning about peptides, learning about hormones, learning from menopause and perimenopause coaches and teachings, so that we can identify some of these symptoms and track back to when it's hormonal.
Right. Thank you for bringing that into the space, Kayse, too, because yes, the HRT, hormone replacement therapy, has been so suppressed, and that is something that I have been navigating too in my own life and the clients, the women that I support too. And like they can work simultaneously together, the HRT and the microdosing. For me, the plant medicine psilocybin specifically has helped with inflammation, like help with these joint issues. And also the HRT, I work with a doc in Santa Cruz that allows me to be supported with my clients with the HRT and with the plant medicine. So it's an invitation for women our age to step into and step away from that old paradigm of, yes, there's other alternatives. And what have you seen in the women that you have supported in menopause that you've witnessed that has surprised them the most when they they start microdosing and HRT?
It's life-changing. It truly is. It's no other way to say it. It's so fast how quickly it can happen too. I joke with my clients, I'm like, estrogen and psilocybin are like the longevity hack of our lifetime. Like, having those available to us now is going to completely change how women age and how we are in the world in our elder years. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be alive at this time. So yes, it can change. A lot of times I see women that I can identify, and we can talk about some of these symptoms where it is estrogen. It's unequivocally estrogen, and you can do all the other things in the world, but if it's estrogen, it's estrogen, and it's usually within a couple weeks that they can have dramatic reduction in some of the symptoms they're having.
And let's talk about the symptoms. Like, is it brain fog? Is it I'm so tired? Is it, just literally you're walking outside of your body? Your soul is like disconnected from your physical being.
Yes, all of those and more. Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating. Similar to watching people in their microdosing process, it's so personal and unique. And a lot of the work as a guide is kind of translating what spirit's doing and how nature is working with each person. Hormones are similar. They all speak to us differently. So some women have very physical symptoms. They have the hot flashes. They have the sweating. They have the anxiety. Other women, it's very emotional. They get into rage, sacred rage is coming forth, and they're like angry and they're coming into their voice, and all of a sudden they're setting boundaries heavily for the first time ever. Other women just have like weird symptoms. I know for myself, I love to share this one because it was so rare and I had never heard it before. I was having really severe jaw pain, like debilitating jaw pain, and I don't really like to take things, but I was literally having to take Advil to get through the day to function. And it would always come on in the morning, and I was like, what could this possibly be? Went to the dentist, had x-rays, looked to see if there was an infection. It was estrogen.
Wow.
I started a tiny dose of estrogen and all the pain had disappeared and stayed disappeared. It took 4 days.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it can be so many different things.
So many different things. Thank you for bringing that into the space and your experience too, because for me, like, I know microdosing plant medicine helped with my hot flashes, like severe nighttime hot flashes to where the sheets are being soaked because I was just like in this sauna, this personal sauna. And when I started microdosing, like, that was so supportive. And also adding in the HRT, like you talk about estrogen, also it's the testosterone too. Let's name that too. It's the testosterone too. So really seek that out to women. If you're here and you're in that perimenopause, menopause space, like, that is the invitation to reach out to somebody that can support you outside of that Western medicine cloak, so to say.
Yeah. And I think too, having the knowledge of to reframe, one of the things Spirit at My Guide has shown me is that when one of your systems is being diminished, it's because another of your system is growing powerfully. So a lot of times it's very common for women in perimenopause, your mind just becomes a little different, right?
Hazy.
Hazy. That's just a little, like, you walk into the room and you're like, where am I? Like, what did I come in here for? And you're like, why? Like, where is my mental sharpness? And yes, we have to function, and we live in a very analytical, high cognitive functioning society that psilocybin and lion's mane can deeply help with. But also at the same time is like when our mental framing and kind of that logical mind is being quieted, it's our intuitive, receptive, feeling self that's really powerfully igniting. And so that's why so many women, when they move into menopause, your cognition is downshifting, but your intuition is next level off the chart. And seeing the gift in it is pretty powerful for women.
Exactly. That stepping away from that masculine energetic space and having that feminine space of where, like, yes, I can be in this intuition, in this dance, and in this flow, and also be in that cognition. So it's the balance of both. And that's what I experienced too in menopause too, is that like the next chapter of the book opening, and here's your invitation to step into your gifts as a woman in this earth game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's delightful because knowing something is a lot faster than thinking about something.
So true. So true. All right. So now I want to shift into, and this has no timeline relevance. It wasn't planned this way, but let's shift into this cognitive health. Let's shift into dementia and early onset dementia. And how can these conversations about microdosing and psilocybin earth medicine support our memory in the later years of life, and also the fear of it too?
Absolutely. I think over time, and sooner the better, we're going to view mushroom practice with all the array of the mushroom family as preventative medicine, as longevity medicine for our minds, keeping our brains healthy and connected and growing always is so important. So not, we in Western medicine are so oriented around we wait until there's a problem to be fixed versus how do we incorporate this into our lifestyles now when we're 30, 40, 50 to prevent a problem from even surfacing. That said, if somebody's listening and you have a parent or you're already starting to have memory decline and cognitive decline, can mushrooms help? 100%. Yes. I've seen people recover capacity that they were told by Western medicine that they could not get back. Oftentimes people say, you might be able to prolong worsening, but I have seen people recover functioning.
I know that within our facilitator guide community, this has been a conversation that's been in there a lot about supporting the clients that we all have that are fearful of this, because let's face it, in my perspective, as I have seen in my years of wisdom, is that sugar is a huge proponent to memory loss. It is this, whether it comes from alcohol, whether it comes from ice cream, whether it comes from, too much pasta, sugar is a big proponent to creating this dementia. And so when we can incorporate diet, nutrition, exercise, and these earth medicines, that gets to be the secret sauce. That gets to be the stack that supports our physical human vessel, right? And within our microdosing community, what are the things that you have seen in these, that you've witnessed in these clients? Can you be a little bit more specific on how plant medicine supports this fear and this dementia in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, it's a natural fear to have. I think, when people think about aging, I hear so many clients go, just let me keep my mind. As long as my mind is okay, because we perceive life through the mind, especially in this modern moment. So yeah, I think brain health is going to be huge and important for all citizen scientists to learn about the prevention. I think diet, sugar, sleep, sunlight, clean water, all of the processed foods we have, all of the pesticides that are used. You probably saw recently they did a big study on Parkinson's and found that there was a remarkably high percentage of people who developed Parkinson's that lived close to a golf course. That's not a coincidence, right? And so we're all coming to these greater awarenesses of things and orientations around things. But I've worked with a lot of clients in their 70s and 80s, early 90s, and to recover cognitive functioning quite remarkably. And so it's beautiful for people to say, oftentimes they share before practice, they're like, my life is so small. My mind is so limited now. It's created this ability to move within life that's so tiny. And they're like, now I have a higher ceiling, right? I moved into a home with a higher ceiling now, and I'm kind of back to life again.
Yeah, I love that metaphor. It's so beautiful because I have Alzheimer's in my family, female lineage, and it's one of the reasons that I continue to microdose for myself and do the things that you talked about, because it is the whole package. And this metaphor of my visual mind can see this house getting smaller and smaller, and when we open up to the possibility of what else is there and allowing in those, let's drop in the science now, those neuro pathways within the mind being shifted and changed and lit up, that doesn't stop. That gets to continue into your 90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's step into this facilitator's perspective now that I am in the guide mentorship that you have within the space that supports all of us holding space for other people. You have supported more than 14,000 people in your 6 years of being in this space. What makes a skilled facilitator? Why would somebody want to have a facilitator to take something that, maybe they can potentially pick out in their backyard if they live in that climate?
Beautiful question. And I get this question a lot. Like, what is the difference a guide can make? A world of difference. So a lot is, if you talk to guides collectively, and I have a lot of guides in our community, Victoria being one of them, is when you talk to guides, oftentimes they became a guide to support what they wish they would have had. You know, if I would have had me when I was first stepping into this work, when I was first stepping into my healing, I could have skipped steps. It would have been so much easier, and I wouldn't have had to like bang into so many walls, right? Or fall down so many times. And so it really is having someone who's been there, experienced, and also this practice and working with earth medicines is so novel, and it's unlike anything you've ever experienced before. It's very unpredictable. It's very not going to be based on what you read is going to happen. The time is unique to each person. And so having a guide to help you orient yourself and support you and help translate what is happening with you when you're having different experiences along the way is very, very supportive. It also amplifies the experience. Like, medicine itself is a non-specific amplifier, but your guide too is a non-specific amplifier. So the container that you build with your guide of trust, of safety, of seeing you, of holding space for you, the energetic transmission that they're holding for you, that moves your experience so much faster along the process. So those are just a fraction of the reasons I encourage people to have help.
Thank you for that, Kayse. And something that I want to have some clarity on, that I know some of my listeners will have the question is, what is a non-specific amplifier? What does that mean?
It's just, it amplifies what you come in with, right? And so that's why a lot of people, I was curious when I first started supporting like the first few hundred people, I was like, why are some people having, like, within days of the medicine, they're off and running, like having these breakthroughs and healings and like things that they had spent their whole lifetime working on were shifting within days and weeks. And I was like, what is the difference between someone else who it might take a few months? The difference was what they came in with. And so people who came in have already done a lot of breath work, who have done a lot of energy work, who are doing the yoga, who are doing the meditation, who are doing the body work. All of that, spirit sees all of that foundation. And so when the medicine comes in, it just amplifies everything you have always done. Like, even that class you took 40 years ago and you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing here or what this is. Like, right? It's like, oh, okay, I see you. So a non-specific amplifier is just the notion that like whatever qualities of you, your energy, your character, your readiness, your honesty, all of that gets amplified with psychedelics.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that clarity. So beautiful. So one other question that I want to ask about facilitators and somebody seeking a guide or having that question, that curious question, is what should someone look for when they are looking for a guide, a coach in this space?
I think I love that you're asking this, because this just came up this morning. I'm going to brag on all of you guys, all of you collectively. So in our guide group, we have international guides all over the world, so unique, so diverse, and I get a lot of referral requests through our community, like, which guide would be best for me for this, and which guide would be best for me for that. And the number one piece of feedback I get from all clients from all over the world when I hear back from them is, she genuinely cares about me. It's the first thing people say. And when I heard that this morning, it brought me to tears, because at the heart, that's what people want the most. And so I think that quality, if you are someone who really genuinely cares about people and cares about the world and cares about our future and future generations, like, that is the quality I think that's most important, that people are really, really drawn to and crave and connection with.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because like, it is something that I hold as a mission and a purpose within my coaching space, is like, I want you to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel loved. And as humans, we all desire that and we all need that. And so, I mean, celebrating our whole group and our whole guideship too, for having you as our mentor to reflect that back to us. So thank you for that, Kayse.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So one final question. So if somebody is listening right now to this conversation and they're carrying depression, anxiety, grief, migraines, all the things that we talked about, and they're curious, what would one thing you would want them to know going forward?
I think to know they are not alone. I always hear such a relief when people do their first intake call and they're like, I have this going on in my life, and then to know that this is something collective people are moving through. And I think so many people, because we're oriented oriented to, in Western medicine, that any symptoms, disease, anything we're moving through needs to be managed and solved for. When you learn that that's not actually how healing works, and oftentimes our symptoms and our diagnosis is just the through line, it's spirit pointing and helping us like to our through line. And so connecting with other people who can see you differently, maybe than you have led to believe through your conditioning, I think to just invite people to step into newness, to step into reframing and reorienting their identity and finding a guide and a community that can kind of see you in this new way.
Thank you for that. That's such a beautiful invitation. All right. So anything else that you would like to drop in this space, Kayse? I know that you have a program for projectors coming up. Anything about the guideship? I would love to open this invitation for you here now.
Oh, thank you for doing so. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. Love our reflectors, you little rare unicorns that you are. We love you. I'm happy to. So I have coming up in July and August. Yeah, we're leading an Earth Medicine immersion exclusively for human design projectors. So those of you who don't know human design, projectors are a minority type. And in 2027, according to human design, the world is shifting and we're stepping into a brand new 400-year cycle. It's a big shift, and projectors are fundamental energetics of the new time. So we're preparing. We're preparing and readying projectors to lead in a new way, in a new paradigm. And then I have our next microdosing facilitator training. It kicks off in September. That'll start September 1st. It's a 12-week-long program, and this will be our 4th cohort for people who either want to become microdosing guides or who are incorporating microdosing into their practices.
Thank you for that. Thank you for holding the space for this next evolution in our society too. I'm so grateful. And I am so grateful to have you on the Sacred Mycelium podcast, Kayse. Having you in my life the past 4 years has been so magical, and I am forever grateful for the person that brought us together. So thank you for being the wise soul that you are. And I just leave you with so much love and so much gratitude.
Thank you. Back at you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining the Sacred Mycelium podcast. This show is just a gift and a passion for my heart to be able to support you on your journey with your curiosity and your questions about microdosing, plant medicine, and any questions that you have. Please drop them into the comments. Like, subscribe, share, and go follow Kayse at Microdosing for Healing. And until next time, thank you for joining us.